This is a story right here that completely escaped my radar. And when I first heard about it, I thought that this story just came out maybe about at least a week ago, at least. But it turns out this story came out about a whole month ago from the time of me recording this. Now, I'm recording this video on March 2nd, 2024, but the article that I'm reading from was posted March 1st, 2024. The woman in this picture's name is Janet Mello, and they've given her the title of Gucci Goddess. Now, before I even get into the story, one thing I've noticed that when it comes to a particular group of people, now based on her last name, I don't know how she truly identifies because it is a foreign kind of sounding last name. But I've noticed that when certain people or a certain demographic commits some of the biggest crimes, they love to give them these fancy names. I remember a few years ago I had did a video about this little girl. It was a little PC girl who was actually dabbling with the distribution of narcotics. And when I say little girl, I'm talking about this girl wasn't even out of middle school yet. I think it happened in Texas, and they literally gave her the title of the adorable kingpin or something like that. Some of y'all who have been around my channel since the beginning on my original channel know what story it is that I'm talking about. But like I said, they love to give these fancy titles out to certain people when they commit these kinds of crimes. But when it comes to black people, we already know what title and label they're prepared to give us. And this woman, Janet Mello, was no different. I mean, they call her the Gucci Goddess. But the reason why she's in the news is because this woman admitted to stealing $108 million from the U.S. Army so she could buy luxury items such as homes and cars. And that's not just the only thing that she bought, but those are probably some of her biggest purchases. Now, I'm assuming because they gave her the title of Gucci Goddess that she probably bought a lot of Gucci based items. And something else stuck out to me as well. She kind of looks like the ex-wife of Patrizia Gucci. Now, she's the ex-wife of John, I think his name was John. Of course, she married into the family, and she was also the one that hired hitman to kill her ex-husband. Basically because she, jealousy and all that type of stuff. I think she did like 25 years in prison behind the crime. So I think she's out now. She didn't even get life. But yeah, she kind of looks like her just a little bit, at least the young Patrizia. The Patrizia of today, she's very old and disheveled. But yeah, I noticed that she looks kind of like her, as if they could have been related. The irony of it all. But I'm going to go ahead and read this article coming from the New York Post. Like I said, it was posted on March 1st, 2024. The Texas Gucci Goddess, who stole millions from the U.S. Army and splurged on luxurious homes, cars, and handbags, pleaded guilty Wednesday to fraud and tax charges. Janet Mello was accused of defrauding the government out of $108 million while working as a civilian financial program manager at Fort Sam Houston. So that's how she was able to do it. I'm thinking maybe she was ex-military, but no, she worked on the base. She reportedly pleaded guilty to all 5 counts of mail fraud and 5 counts of filing a false tax return with the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Texas following charges from December 2023, according to the San Antonio Express News. Mello, age 57, created the fake vendor Child Health and Youth Lifelong Development in 2016 and provided services to military member families through the 4-H program, which focuses on positive youth development through providing opportunities for youth to engage in intentional learning experiences. During her 7-year-long scheme, now listen to how long this thing went. For 7 years. And look at all she was able to accrue in all that time. That's a lot of money that she gained in all that time. Prosecutors said the company had only been used to steal money from the U.S. government and never provided any financial aid to the program. Instead, the con artist used the funds to fuel her and her husband's lavish lifestyle. She purchased 31 different real estate properties in states ranging from Colorado, Maryland, New Mexico, Texas, and Washington. Her mansion in Preston, Maryland, valued at now, isn't that amazing? I live in the state of Maryland, and I never heard of this story, even when it was first reported over a month ago. But Preston, Maryland, that sounds like that's in a whole, like, that sounds like it's in a certain part of Maryland I wouldn't even be going to. Her mansion in Preston is valued at $3.1 million, was on a sprawling 58-acre property, and featured 8 bedrooms, 12 bathrooms, and 55 garage spaces. Mello also bought more than 80 vintage high-performance cars and motorcycles, which included 4 Ducatis, 16 Harley-Davidson motorcycles, 2 Aston Martins, a 1966 Ford Mustang, and a 1954 Chevrolet Corvette, some of which are valued at more than $150,000. The fraudster had so many luxury brand packages from companies like Coach, Gucci, and Louis Vuitton being delivered to one of her homes that she garnered the nickname the Gucci Goddess by couriers, according to the outlet. So now we see how she got that title. She'd have expensive jewelry, or say she'd just been here or there, and that it was all possible because of her rich husband. An acquaintance of Mello who wished to remain anonymous told the outlet. She'd come in her Mercedes or Land Rover and say, "It's a gift from my rich husband." Her ruse was unearthed when the Internal Revenue Service flagged Mello's suspicious business after she included it on her personal tax returns in 2017, reporting a $483 profit on a $2,152 revenue. Now, look at that. She got stopped dead in her tracks after 7 years because she made the mistake of putting it on her personal tax return. If she had not done that, she probably would have still been running this scheme to this day. She had not filed tax returns for her so-called organization since 2017. The IRS Criminal Investigation Division then launched a probe with the Army's criminal investigators. Both agencies then raided Mello's home in August, according to the outlet. Following the raid, Mello's supervisors at Joint Base San Antonio Fort Sam Houston allowed the scammer to retire with full benefits, with the military admitting that they could not withhold her benefits. Wow. So she stole all that money, and even though they was definitely going to get her for what she did, she was still able to retire with all of her benefits because they couldn't withhold them. That probably pissed them off that was the outcome. Well, partially her outcome. It's not like it's going to be the end all be all. An Army spokesperson told the outlet the command had no authority to impact Miss Mello's retirement. Albert Flores, Mello's attorney, told the outlet his client quote-unquote earned her retirement benefits and doesn't see how one thing is related to the other. Investigators noted the theft was possible due to the Army slip-up. Along with recouping money by seizing her multiple properties, the government also plans on going after more than $18 million it found in 6 bank accounts linked to Mello, or CHYLD, which is basically the acronym for her so-called organization that we know does not exist. One account is reportedly linked to a cattle company Mello formed with her husband. Her husband has not been charged, and I don't know why. You can't tell me you didn't know your wife was doing all of this. You can't tell me that she's been running this scheme for 7 years and you didn't know. Like, how in the world do you think you was able to get all of this stuff? Y'all didn't have it before, but all of a sudden you have it now. You mean you never asked any questions? You never questioned your wife's behavior? I don't believe it, but okay, fine, whatever. Mello faces a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison for each mail fraud count and 5 years for each tax fraud count. She's currently facing a prison sentence of 125 years, but could receive less than the maximum penalties due to her striking a plea deal. Her plea hearing in federal court has yet to be scheduled. That was a pretty interesting story, a pretty loaded story too. But yeah, this woman is as greedy as they come. Like, she literally defrauded basically the U.S. Army, which we all know is attached to the U.S. government. Any branch of the military as a whole, is one of the biggest well-known entities attached to the U.S. government. And she thought she saw fit that I'm going to defraud them and steal all this money. And the crazy part, again, like I said, she ran this scheme for 7 years, and the one thing she messed up on was when she did that thing with the IRS. If she did not do that, like I said before, if she did not do that, she definitely would have continued on with her scheme to this day. She had a good run. I'll give her that. 7 years is a long time to keep up appearances and to run something such as that. And she managed to pull it off until she, got, kind of dumb, even though this was a whole dumb thing to do in the begin with. But when she did that move, that would be the wrong move to make on a chessboard. But that's crazy. But as far as her husband goes, they should definitely charge him as well. Because again, you cannot tell me this guy was living with this woman all this time. Y'all was taking all these trips. Y'all was getting all this nice stuff. Something that y'all have never done before. You're telling me you really never questioned this? I do not believe it. Something tells me he knows more than he's letting on, but he's probably pretending to be oblivious about it, and that's why he hasn't been charged with anything. But I will look into him as well. Like, what kind of occupation did he have? Because I'm assuming it's not one where they could have afforded that type of lifestyle. To say, oh, this is getting funded, by me. Because notice that whenever people was questioning her about the stuff that she would buy, they will always ask, how did you get this? Like, where did it come from? And she was saying, oh, it came from her rich husband. No one thought to ask, what does her husband do for a living for them to be living like this, to be taking these trips to get these lavish and luxurious items, these homes, this jewelry and these cars and anything else with a price tag of probably over $5,000. So yeah, it's not adding up to me as far as the husband is concerned. But he hasn't been charged, so it is what it is. But as far as she goes, she's not the first and she will not be the last person to defraud a major U.S. government entity. We hear these type of stories all the time, and it doesn't have to just be from the military. Of course, the IRS is one of them. Of course, welfare fraud. We looking at you, Brett Favre. And a bunch of other types of frauds that's attached to the government as a whole, because they figure, I can get the most money out of them because they're the ones that handle the money. So why not? Whether on a state level or definitely on a federal level. And of course, this was definitely a federal offense because, it's the U.S. military. But yeah, this chick they should throw the book at her, hands down, and make her also pay a fine for in which the acts in which she committed as well. Make her pay a big hefty fine too. Now notice they said there's something about a plea deal, saying that she could get 20 years, even though they said she faces about 125 years. That is insane. Imagine throwing your whole life away because you got greedy, and she was right there. And see, that's the thing right there that's going to cause them to hopefully do better screenings when it comes to people in these jobs where they're working in places such as that.